Hey, y'all. Welcome to season 4 of the JMT Media podcast. I am your host, Jacqueline Tecarate, and a lot has happened in the past, 6 months. Recently, our team was nominated for Crane's Business Top Executives in New York City, which is a huge feat. So, shout out to my amazing team here at JMT Media. Also, we had a celebration from the students for the New York City Digital Media Center. The first year of our cohort, they all graduated. We were able to make sure that they got job placements, including college placements, which is the most important thing. And, life is grand and good. But this season of our podcast, we really wanted to focus on entrepreneurs that are finding peace, that's directing them into their passion. And so, if you've been following with us for the past 3 seasons, we've talked to everyone from elected officials to nonprofit executives to award-winning Shark Tank owners and small businesses near and far. And this season, I really wanted us to focus on things that provide peace, that are guiding us in our passion. And so I had an opportunity to meet this amazing, amazing guest several months back, actually. She has her own podcast called the MWBE Times, and she is just a force to be reckoned with. But one of the things that I found fascinating about her is she is like me in the sense of collaboration is key and sharing is key. And so that has really propelled her business to really amplify all of their services within the business world on a national stage and a small business stage. She recently was the moderator and panelist for the New York Women in Business discussion. And it was so incredible to learn about this billion-dollar club, which we'll talk about in a second. So I'm going to bring on Miss Angela Ramirez. Are you there, Angela?
Hello, my dear.
Hey, beautiful lady. Angelina, sorry. So first off, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm so excited to have you on. You are just a breath of fresh air when I talk about entrepreneurship and collaboration. The last season I alluded to not too many times. Nobody really gives you guidance on when you start a new business. Nobody tells you, okay, this is how you build the relationship. This is who you're supposed to connect with. And so you've built a business off of that. And so if you can just give our readers a little bit of information about your business, and then a little bit about the MWBE Times as I drink my coffee.
But you're absolutely right. After grad school, I went into corporate America. I was there for 10 years, didn't really like it. And then I pivoted to nonprofit. But in essence, I was working for someone for 18 years. And then I pretty much, jumped into this world of entrepreneurship, and it's not easy. The first year was quite stressful for me.
Yeah.
And I got a little sick, actually. I even got a little bit of an ulcer because it takes a lot to understand the fact that you have to, not only get clients, but then at the same time, manage the projects, do
Yeah.
your accounts receivable and payable. So it's a lot. But you know what? The perseverance and positive attitude definitely help, with that. So we're in year 5 of the Amblin Group. And, to your point, what we started doing is I don't want to say very different, but I have very much focused on what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And what that has meant is that I've had to cede control. I've had to
No, an
outsource.
entrepreneur that has to delegate? No, never.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm not very good at it right at the
Because we're
beginning.
Virgos. We found out in the digital green room that we're both Virgos. So
Yeah.
it is very hard to delegate and relinquish that power because we're perfectionists. We're like, we want to do it a certain way, a certain style. And, in business, everything cannot be perfect.
No,
No.
everything cannot be perfect. And
Yeah.
also, if you collaboration, to your earlier point, is key. And, you know, um, I remember when I first started, learning marketing, and we talk about competition and direct and indirect. And I've really changed my mindset because, if people were to look at your company and mine, they're like, oh, they both do communications and they do marketing and they both do, even now lobbying, right? And I am not a believer of that at all. The pie is so huge, and
Yeah.
our relationship only means that we can do things bigger, better, stronger. And also I've realized that I stay in my lane.
Hmm.
And I've been really working on that vibration of understanding what my lane is, what brings me joy and what I'm passionate about, and kind of staying in that lane and saying no.
Yeah.
I didn't say no a lot before, but I say no quite often.
Yeah.
And I send work to colleagues and friends that can do it, because you can't do it all, in my
No,
opinion.
I have to agree with you on that. There are some prospective clients that come to us and people are like, "What do you mean you didn't work with them? That's a great brands. That's a great." I'm like, "Yes, it is, but if it's not what my mission or my focus is, I'm not going to produce the best creative designs or the press campaigns, etc." And so not every client is the one for you. That doesn't mean that they're bad or anything. It's just if we're not on the same vibration, like you mentioned, it's not a bad thing. It just means like I'm not going to be the best person for you, right? It's talking about that positive energy coming through the door when you feel it. It's like you immediately, I knew that I loved you when I met you because I was like, I love her vibration. I love what she's giving off. But you're absolutely right. You also touched on something else that at face value, you're absolutely right. People would say, why is the Amblin Group and JMT Media even, they're competitors?
Mm.
Because we not only stay within our lane, but we also have a different passion of types of clients that we work with. And so there's going to be opportunities that I'll be able to pass things on to you, et cetera. But I want you to talk about the $1 billion
Yeah, yeah.
circle because, and I want to transition into that because when we talk about your own lane, first off, there are city contracts, there's
Mhm.
state contracts, and then there's federal contracts. And what I alluded to at the beginning of the intro was that you were a moderator for the New York Women in Business panel.
Mhm.
And when you dropped this gem about $1 billion circle, I was like, "Como what?" I'm like, "Who? What? Where? What is this?" I had never heard of it. And so I want you to enlighten our viewers that are watching this on
Yes.
YouTube, but also those that are tuning in to iTunes and Spotify. Like, can you talk a little bit about what that tier is? What is the
Yes.
Billionaires Club?
Roundtable. Okay. So I'll just start because you could have talked a little bit about it. So when we talk about contracts, generally people only think about contracting with public sector, just what you
Mhm.
mentioned, right? So, and New York, obviously, very robust
Yeah.
when it comes to MWB. So, New York City has their own certification. Some of our agencies, like the Port Authority and the MTA, the state has their own. Other states have their own.
Sure.
Florida, Maryland, New Jersey, California, just to name a few. All of them, you could get certified as an M or a W as a minority or woman and get government contracts. And
Mhm.
to your point, even the federal government has certifications, whether you're a woman, whether you're a small business, whether you're a veteran, etc. So public sector, very robust. What people generally don't know is that there are private sector certifications as well. So, and there are many, but the ones that are the most, I guess, best known, NMSDC, which is for minorities, WeBank, which is for women. There's one even for LGBTQ, one for veterans, and one for the disabled. Okay. So if you're interested in getting contracts with Fortune 1000, with corporate America, right, then that's the certification you should get. And then um, what's even more interesting is that there's something very exclusive called the $1 billion Roundtable. And what that is it's approximately 32 companies, US companies, that have exceeded over $1 billion with their procurement when it comes to giving contracts to minorities and women. And they've made that commitment, right? So like a JP Morgan Chase is an example, or a Verizon is an example, very coveted, very difficult, but these are amazing companies that you should target because you know that they have robust procurement programs, supplier diversity programs. They are super committed, and they really do put their money where their mouth is, because every year, there is a nonprofit that determines whether they've reached that $1 billion
Yeah.
threshold to maintain their status. It's very elite status, and a lot of corporate entities want to be on it. But like I said, only 32 or so are on it because it's not easy, and it requires a team, and it requires dedication. And these companies have really shown commitment to supplier diversity. So it's a really great program.
I love that. I mean, and how did you find out about this? Because when you mentioned this at the panel discussion, honestly, I wasn't even thinking about the private sector. I was only thinking about, on the city side, because that's what I deal with. And it was like that saying, you don't know what you don't know. And so when I found that out, I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Well, the thing is this, right? They're not really going to buy chocolate. So what I said to her is, getting private sector certification would make a lot more sense. So for example, many moons ago, I used to work for American Express. American Express has a cafeteria where their employees go and eat. So they would probably procure your chocolate for their employees. They have a company store so that when their employees in the afternoon need a little snack, they would go and buy that chocolate. Or Amex will buy chocolate maybe to give to their clients or to their employees or to their vendors. So again, it's important for you to understand what your product is and who really is in the market for buying your product.
Yeah.
So once I really understood that, I really started to delve into the different private sector certifications. Now, mind you, there are businesses that work for public and private, such as your business, Jacqueline, right? Marketing, both public and private sector need that. Construction, facilities, cleaning, all of those are examples that work for both the public and private sector. And so once you delve into private sector, then you really want to understand, okay, who really is committed? Who is doing lip service or who's committed? And
Yeah.
$1 billion roundtable, definitely committed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, let's talk about the passion. Like, how did you get involved in this like world, right? Like for me, getting the MWBE certification was simply because I was told, "Hey, you're a minority woman business, get your certification." And that's how I learned about it. But how did you get involved into like really being an industry leader and talking about this and giving guidance and advice?
I really fell into it. I'm not even going to lie. So, when I was the executive director of a nonprofit focusing on economic development, that's where I established relationships here in New York with elected officials and city agencies. And I learned a lot about MWB certification with the city. And I even recommended it to a lot of the small businesses. Then when I left, I actually went into the medical industry, and I lasted 2 weeks. I've never
Oh, okay.
I've never quit a job in my life.
You were like, and scene, I'm done.
2 weeks. And so I thought, you know what? Let me do a little soul searching because I'm having an existential crisis. I
Crisis.
don't know what to do. And I started volunteering. I actually volunteered on a friend of mine's campaign, and I met someone, and so we just started chatting. And he's like, "Wow, you have so much experience with MWBEs." I'm not even sure how I started that conversation. He's like, "You should really focus on that," even though marketing has always been what I was doing when I worked in corporate and even at the nonprofit, but adding that differentiator of the marketing with the MWB certification was in his mind something different. And due to the nature of his business, he was doing a lot of lobbying on Long Island. He's like, wow, we need that. So I
Yeah.
started off slow, and I just focused on New York City. Then I started New York State, and then I expanded to public and private sector. So I definitely did it in the Virgo methodical
Yeah.
way.
You already know. Like the interesting part is, I've been in business now 8 years. there's a lot of opportunities that are presented to you. And I was always told, just accept every opportunity if it comes your way. But the problem is, if you don't understand where your passion lies in that opportunity or what the purpose is in that opportunity, then you're wasting time. You're wasting the other potential collaborators' time, but you're also wasting your time. And so for me, time is precious. I got two little babies at home, plus my business and my nonprofit. So if it's not really satisfying my purpose or my passion, I can't really move forward with it. As much as, people dangle, what is it, the carrot in front of me. It's not enough to feed my soul. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, right, and I think that is key, are resources. And the older I get, the the less my resources are. And I say that because I do want to focus so much on my passion projects. So that's right, really why I've moved away from marketing and I outsource it,
Mhm.
because I cannot do it the justice that it deserves.
Yeah.
Marketing in particular, every day there's just something new, a new technology, a new app, just constantly. And so I would actually be doing a disservice to my clients if I really said that I was the one doing the marketing.
Yeah.
What I specialize in today is MWBE certifications and establishing those relationships with procurement officers and really doing the business development. And when it comes to the marketing, I do what is very specific to MWBE. And when they do ask me for something else, I either say no, or I outsource it, because again, I I stay in my lane.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So we're gonna wrap up this episode because it's our first one of season 4. So I'm super pumped in case you haven't noticed. But what would be 2 pieces of advice that you would give a young entrepreneur? Because we're seeing young entrepreneurs left and right. And so for me, the thing I tell people is relationships and be organized.
Mhm.
So what are 2 pieces of advice for a young entrepreneur?
Yeah, number one is, very practical. Just register your business. I don't care if you're 17. Register your business, get your LLC. And that's more for tax purposes. People
Mhm.
just don't understand all the wonderful implications of you having a business. And then you having it also, the older your business is, the more legitimate it is, and the easier it is for you to eventually get contracts or move into
Yeah.
whatever realm. So that's number one. And number two, don't be hard on yourself. I know like I said, it took me a while to find out what, what I was really passionate about. I was in corporate for 10 and I hated it.
Yeah.
Nonprofit was satisfying, but I knew something was wrong. And then I did that stint for 2 weeks and I'm like, heck no. And and even today with Amblin and MWBE Times, I'm still honing in on what it is. So just
Yeah.
be true to your heart, be true to yourself, and do feel empowered to say no, because not every opportunity is good for you.
I love it. I love it. Angelina, thank you so much. You're going to stay on for a second. For those that are tuning in, we have an amazing roster of podcast guests for this season. Literally all over the world will be tuning in. And this is going to really change the focus of JMT Media. We've done a lot of internal reflection on where we want to go, what we want to accomplish, who we want to partner with. So we're super excited for this season 4. So make sure that you follow us on JMT Media on all social media handles, but also on Spotify and iTunes. And thank you so much, Angelina, for all of your support. And bye, y'all.
Bye.